Before his execution, the man only asked to see his alien wolf. What happened next shocked everyone. The small town of Ravensfield had always been quiet. Most people knew each other, and life moved slowly between the small shops, dusty streets, and the old forest at the edge of town. But over the last few months, the town had changed. Fear had crept into its corners, whispers of strange happenings, and one man became the center of it all, Elias Blackwood. Elias was different. From the moment he arrived in Ravensfield, people had sensed there was something unusual about him. He spoke little, kept mostly to himself, and had strange habits no one could explain. But what really drew attention and fear was the creature that lived with him. A wolf, but unlike any wolf anyone had ever seen. Its eyes glowed faintly in the dark. Its movements were fluid and almost too intelligent for a normal animal, and sometimes people claimed they saw it vanish from sight and appear elsewhere instantly. They called it the alien wolf. Most of the town avoided Elias. Children were told to stay away, and adults whispered about him in the marketplace. Yet some of the braver townsfolk, or the curious ones, sometimes glimpsed the wolf running alongside him in the forest, or crouched quietly near the cabin, watching him as though it understood every word he said. The peace of Ravensfield shattered one rainy evening. A terrible event had occurred. A fire had swept through a part of the town, destroying homes and injuring several people. The authorities investigated, and soon all fingers pointed to Elias. He was arrested without resistance. When asked about the fire, he said nothing. The wolf had vanished that day, and no one saw it again. Elias' trial was short. Evidence against him seemed strong, though some townspeople whispered that it was circumstantial. But the court had made its decision. He was guilty, and the sentence was death. Despite the grim fate awaiting him, Elias seemed calm. On the first day of his imprisonment, he was quiet but composed, almost serene. Guards tried to talk to him, but he spoke only when necessary. Most of his words were about simple things, the weather, a request for a blanket or a book. Yet every day the whispers grew louder among the guards and townspeople about the wolf. Weeks passed. The day of the execution drew closer. The town was divided. Some believed Elias was evil and deserved his punishment. Others thought he was misunderstood, a man who had been feared for no reason. Yet everyone agreed on one thing. The man's bond with the wolf was real, and it terrified them. A week before the execution, Elias made a strange request. He asked to see his alien wolf one last time. The guards laughed at the request. "You are asking to see a creature that doesn't even exist," one said. "You will die soon, and yet you waste your time thinking about a wolf." Elias did not respond. He only stared, calm and unwavering, as though the wolf itself were standing beside him in the room. His eyes reflected something deeper, a connection that no one could understand. Rumors spread quickly. People said the wolf was no ordinary animal. Some claimed it could sense danger, some that it had supernatural powers, and others whispered that it was from another world entirely. Even the authorities started to feel uneasy. They had never seen anything like it, and the stories made them nervous. Finally, the governor of the town agreed. The wolf would be brought to Elias under strict supervision. Guards were ordered to stay at a distance, weapons ready, and townsfolk were warned to stay away. Some were excited to see the strange creature, others feared it might attack. The day arrived. The sun was hidden behind thick clouds, and a cold wind swept through the town. The wolf was brought into the courtyard, moving silently. Its fur shimmered strangely in the dim light, and its eyes, glowing faintly green, scanned the surroundings carefully. The guards felt a chill, as if the wolf's gaze pierced right through them. Elias was brought out of his cell. He did not rush. He walked slowly, eyes fixed on the creature. When he reached the wolf, he knelt, and the wolf stepped forward without hesitation. They did not touch at first, yet their bond was clear. The wolf lowered its head, and Elias whispered something that no one could hear. Yet the guards and townsfolk watched in awe. The wolf's ears moved. It blinked slowly, and then something incredible happened. The wolf spoke, or at least it seemed so. Its voice was soft, almost like a whisper carried on the wind, yet every word was clear. "I am here," it said. "You are safe with me." The crowd gasped. No one had ever heard a wolf speak. Even the guards stumbled back, confused and frightened. Elias looked at the wolf and smiled faintly. For the first time in weeks, he seemed truly at peace. But then the unexpected happened. A soldier stepped forward, thinking to seize the wolf. As he reached out, the wolf growled, and the air itself seemed to change. The hairs on the soldier's neck stood on end, and he froze. The wolf did not attack, yet the power it radiated was enough to make everyone step back. The crowd murmured in fear. Elias looked at the soldier calmly. "Do not touch him," he said. "He is my friend, and he will not harm you unless you try to harm me." The soldier withdrew slowly, and the wolf relaxed. The tension in the air remained, but no one could deny the bond between man and creature. It was unlike anything they had ever seen. The news spread quickly. Even towns far away heard about the man and his alien wolf. People came to watch, though authorities tried to keep the crowd away. Rumors became legends, and whispers grew louder. No one had ever seen a bond like this, and no one knew what would happen next. As the sun began to set, Elias and the wolf stood together, silent, looking toward the horizon. The townspeople could not understand their connection. Some felt fear, some felt awe. The wolf's presence had changed everything. What was once a simple execution had now become a mystery that no one could explain. Night fell, and the wolf disappeared into the shadows of the forest. Elias was returned to his cell. He sat quietly, thinking of the wolf, of the bond they shared, and of what might happen the next day. For the first time, he allowed himself a small smile. Tomorrow would bring uncertainty, but tonight he had the comfort of his friend. Part 1 ends here, leaving the townspeople, the authorities, and readers in suspense. No one knew what the wolf would do, what Elia's fate would be, or how their bond might change the course of events. The next day would be unlike anything Ravensfield had ever seen. The morning of Elia's execution was cold and gray. The sky hung low, heavy with clouds, and a chill wind swept through Ravensfield. The townspeople gathered quietly behind barriers, their faces a mix of curiosity, fear, and anticipation. Guards lined the execution site, weapons at the ready. Everyone had heard the stories, the whispers about Elias and his alien wolf, and many wondered if the tales were true. Elias walked slowly to the courtyard, his hands bound but his gaze steady. He did not speak. His calmness unsettled the guards and the crowd alike. The rumor of the wolf had spread like wildfire, and even the most skeptical townspeople now feared the unknown. As he reached the center of the courtyard, the wolf appeared. It stepped silently from the shadows, its fur shimmering strangely in the dim morning light. Its eyes glowed faintly green, and the air seemed to shift around it. The crowd gasped, and some stepped back instinctively. The wolf did not growl, did not attack, yet its presence alone was powerful enough to make everyone uneasy. Elias dropped to his knees the moment he saw the wolf. "I am ready," he whispered, his voice soft, almost reverent. The wolf moved closer, circling him slowly. Then it did something unexpected. It bowed its head, as if showing respect not just to Elias but to the moment itself. The executioner stepped forward, his hands shaking slightly. "Elias Blackwood," he called, "you have been found guilty. Your sentence is death." Elias did not flinch. His eyes remained locked on the wolf, and for a moment it seemed as if the world had stopped. The crowd fell silent, the wind paused, and even the guards seemed frozen in place. Then something extraordinary happened. The wolf let out a low, resonant howl. It was not like any ordinary wolf's howl, deep, powerful, almost melodic. The sound carried across the town and seemed to penetrate the very air, sending chills through everyone who heard it. Windows rattled, birds scattered, and even some of the soldiers felt an inexplicable fear. The wolf stepped closer to Elias, brushing its head against his shoulder. "You are safe," it whispered, again in that soft, otherworldly voice. "No harm will come to you while I am here." The crowd gasped. No one had ever heard an animal speak like that, let alone so clearly. The executioner froze, unsure what to do. Guards whispered to one another, confusion and fear mixing in their voices. Some wondered if the wolf was a trick, a hallucination, or something far beyond understanding. Elias stood slowly and the wolf moved beside him. Together, they faced the authorities. It was then that the unexpected event occurred. A strange light began to emanate from the wolf's body. It was soft at first, a pale green glow that made the morning gloom seem brighter. Then it intensified, filling the courtyard with a shimmering, almost magical light. The townspeople squinted, shielding their eyes, and the guards stepped back instinctively. The wolf raised its head, and its voice echoed through the air, strong and commanding this time. "He is innocent," it said. "The truth must be known." The executioner froze completely, staring at the wolf as though he had lost all understanding of the world. The crowd murmured nervously, some stepping back in fear, others leaning forward in disbelief. How could a wolf speak? How could it shine like this? And how could it know the truth about a human's fate? Then the wolf revealed what had really happened. In a voice that resonated with clarity, it told of the fire that had devastated Ravensfield, that Elias had not started it, and that the true cause had been an accident, a gas leak that no one had noticed until too late. Witnesses gasped, some whispering to one another, others staring wide-eyed at the wolf. The authorities demanded proof. They did not trust an animal, no matter how strange, but the wolf's next act stunned everyone. With a single gesture, it moved to the ruins of the fire and seemed to point to evidence: the broken gas pipe, charred but clearly not intentionally destroyed. The explanation was undeniable, and the truth became clear. Elia's hands shook slightly, though his eyes still held calm. He looked at the wolf with gratitude. "Thank you," he whispered. "You saved me." The guards lowered their weapons, unsure of what to do. The executioner stepped back, speechless. For the first time in history, a man's life was saved by the intervention of a creature that no one could explain. The crowd erupted in a mix of amazement and relief. Some cheered, some cried, and some simply stood in stunned silence. The news spread quickly. Elias was not guilty, and the alien wolf had revealed the truth. The townspeople's fear of Elias turned into respect and even awe. They had witnessed something extraordinary, something they could barely understand, yet it had changed their lives. Elias knelt again, this time to embrace the wolf fully. The creature nuzzled him gently, and for a moment the world felt calm and right. The bond between man and wolf was undeniable. It was more than friendship. It was a connection that had saved a life, revealed the truth, and shocked an entire town. Authorities had no choice but to release Elias. They could not deny the wolf's intervention, and the evidence it revealed was irrefutable. They offered apologies, some grudging, some heartfelt. The townspeople watched as Elias walked out of the courtyard, free for the first time in months. The wolf followed, its eyes glowing softly in the morning light, and together they disappeared into the forest. Life in Ravensfield slowly returned to normal, but nothing was ever the same. People spoke in hushed tones about Elias and his alien wolf. They told stories of the night when a mysterious creature had saved a man's life, when truth and loyalty had triumphed over fear and misunderstanding. Elias never returned to the town openly. He and the wolf remained in the forest, watching from a distance, helping only when needed. Their bond became legendary, a story of trust, loyalty, and the extraordinary connection between a man and a creature that defied explanation. The lesson of that day stayed with the townspeople forever. Fear could blind them, suspicion could cloud their judgment, but truth, courage, and an unexpected ally could change everything. Elia's life was spared, not by luck, not by law, but by a bond so powerful that it had shocked the world and reminded everyone that the universe still held mysteries far beyond their understanding. And so, the story of Elias Blackwood and his alien wolf became a tale told for generations, a story of hope, wonder, and the unexpected ways life can surprise even the most certain of hearts. After the shocking events of his near execution, Elias Blackwood's life changed forever. The town of Ravensfield could no longer look at him the same way. The man they once feared, accused of crimes and deserving of death, had become a symbol of something far greater: trust, loyalty, and the extraordinary bond between a man and a mysterious wolf. Elias did not return to the town immediately. He and his alien wolf disappeared into the forest that bordered Ravensfield, moving silently through the trees. People whispered that they could sometimes see two figures moving among the shadows, one man, one glowing-eyed wolf, but no one dared approach. The wolf's presence was enough to keep them at a safe distance. The authorities tried to explain what had happened. Some claimed the wolf was just an animal that had somehow led them to the truth. Others said it was an act of nature, a coincidence that saved Elias. But most townspeople refused to believe such explanations. They had seen the wolf speak. They had seen the glow. They had witnessed a power that no ordinary animal could possess. In the weeks that followed, Elias began to live quietly in the forest, tending to himself and his companion. He learned more about the wolf, discovering that it was far older and wiser than any ordinary creature. Its movements were precise, its instincts extraordinary, and its intelligence unmatched. He realized that the wolf had chosen him not by chance, but because it recognized something in him, a bond of loyalty, courage, and compassion. The town slowly recovered from the fire, though memories of that day lingered. People told stories to their children about the man and the alien wolf, about how fear could be overcome by truth and trust. The story became a legend, passed down from one generation to the next. Some people traveled from far away to see Ravensfield, hoping to catch a glimpse of the mysterious duo in the forest, though few ever did. Despite the attention, Elias never sought fame or recognition. He remained humble, aware that his life had been spared by something beyond ordinary understanding. The wolf became more than a companion. It was a teacher, a protector, and a friend. Through the wolf, Elias learned patience, awareness, and respect for the natural world in ways he had never known before. Months later, a new crisis arose in the region. A sudden flood threatened a nearby village, and the townspeople were unprepared. Word of the disaster reached Ravensfield, and Elias knew what he had to do. Without hesitation, he and the wolf ventured out to help. Moving swiftly through the rain and rising waters, they reached the village just as the flood began to overtake homes. The wolf led Elias with incredible precision, sensing which paths were safe and which were dangerous. Together, they guided villagers to higher ground, carried those who could not move on their own, and calmed frightened children with the wolf's presence. People watched in awe, unable to understand how one man and a wolf could navigate the chaos so perfectly. By the end of the day, every villager was safe. Exhausted and wet, Elias and the wolf stood together on a hill overlooking the flooded village. People came forward to thank them, tears in their eyes, gratitude written on every face. In that moment, the bond between man and wolf became a legend not just in Ravensfield, but in the surrounding towns as well. As time passed, Elias and the wolf became guardians of the forest. They helped where they could, intervening in emergencies, guiding lost travelers, and protecting the weak from danger. The wolf's mysterious abilities continued to astonish people. It could sense danger long before it arrived, communicate in ways no human could understand, and move silently through the trees, appearing exactly where it was needed most. Ilya's connection with the wolf deepened. He learned to read its subtle gestures, to understand its moods, and to communicate without words. The wolf became an extension of his own senses, a partner in every sense of the word. Together, they were unstoppable, yet gentle, a force of nature that defended life and truth wherever they went. News of their deeds spread far beyond Ravensfield. People came seeking help, guidance, or simply to witness the incredible bond between a man and his alien wolf. Scholars, scientists, and storytellers traveled long distances, hoping to document the mystery. Yet Elias remained humble, refusing attention, and the wolf stayed ever watchful, protecting him from anyone who might seek to exploit their bond. Years passed, and the town changed again. Children who had grown up hearing the story of Elias and his wolf now told it themselves, each telling richer with awe and wonder. People began to see the forest not as a place of danger, but as a home for something extraordinary. The bond between man and wolf became a symbol proof that courage, loyalty, and truth could overcome fear and suspicion. Elias grew older, but his spirit remained strong. The wolf, too, aged gracefully, its glow never fading, its intelligence never diminishing. Together they faced life's challenges, celebrated its joys, and honored the bond that had saved them both in countless ways. They were more than companions. They were family, bound by trust, respect, and an understanding that went beyond words. The most extraordinary moment came many years after the events of the execution. A group of villagers who had witnessed the original events returned to the forest, now older and wiser, to see Elias and the wolf one last time. They found them standing on a hill overlooking Ravensfield, as if guarding the town from afar. The wolf approached the villagers, its eyes calm and steady. It did not speak in words, yet the message was clear. Peace, protection, and the bond of trust remained unbroken. The villagers bowed in respect, understanding that what they had seen all those years ago was only the beginning of something much greater. Elias finally spoke, his voice gentle but strong. "We were given a chance," he said, looking at the wolf. "Not just me, but all of us. The truth, loyalty, and trust are stronger than fear. Never forget that." The wolf sat beside him, a quiet companion, radiating calm and understanding. Together, they looked at the horizon, knowing that their bond had changed not only their lives, but the lives of everyone who had witnessed it. The story of Elias Blackwood and his alien wolf became a legend, told for generations, not just as a tale of mystery, but as a lesson. Fear and suspicion could blind people, but truth and loyalty could shine brighter than anything else. A man, a wolf, and a bond that defied explanation had proven that even the most hopeless moments could lead to the most extraordinary outcomes. As the sun set behind the forest, Elias and the wolf walked back into the trees, silent but powerful, their presence a reminder that the world was full of mysteries, and that the strongest connections could come from the most unexpected places. And though the townspeople would never fully understand the full extent of the wolf's abilities, they knew one thing for certain. The man who had faced death and the wolf who had saved him would never be forgotten. Their story remained, a timeless legend of hope, courage, and the power of trust. Years had passed since the extraordinary events that had saved Elias Blackwood from execution. The town of Ravensfield had moved on, yet the story of Elias and his alien wolf remained a legend. Many had come to respect him, and even those who once feared him now spoke his name with awe. But peace, as it often does, would not last forever. Elias had grown stronger, wiser, and even more connected to his wolf. The forest had become their home, a place where humans rarely ventured and where the wolf's powers could remain a mystery. Together, they patrolled the wilderness, keeping the forest safe, helping lost travelers, and protecting wildlife from poachers. Their bond was stronger than ever, a perfect harmony of instinct, intelligence, and loyalty. One crisp morning, While Elias was tending a small stream near their cabin, a messenger arrived from the neighboring town. He was out of breath, his horse trembling and fear clearly written on his face. "Sir Elias," the messenger gasped, "you must come quickly. Something terrible is happening. People are in danger and we don't know who to call. Please, we need you." Elias' eyes narrowed. He had hoped for more years of calm, but his instincts told him that new trouble had arrived. The wolf stepped forward, its glowing eyes scanning the horizon, sensing the urgency in the messenger's voice. Without hesitation, Elias mounted his horse, and the wolf ran beside him, moving like a shadow across the forest floor. When they arrived at the neighboring town, the scene was worse than anyone had imagined. Smoke rose from several buildings and screams echoed through the streets. It was not a simple accident this time. The town was under attack. Strange creatures, unlike any animals Elias had seen before, had descended from the forest. They were fast, intelligent, and aggressive, and the townspeople were no match for them. Elias immediately assessed the situation. He could feel the wolf tense beside him, ready for action. The bond between them gave him insight, a way to understand not just the wolf's movements, but the strategy that the wolf instinctively knew was necessary. Together, they began to protect the people. The wolf leaped forward first, its glowing eyes mesmerizing and terrifying the creatures. It moved with incredible speed, dodging attacks and retaliating with precision. Elias followed closely, using his knowledge of the forest and his sharp instincts to guide the townspeople to safety. Together, they were a perfect team, man and wolf, instinct and intelligence working in harmony. The townspeople watched in awe. They had seen the wolf before, of course, and knew of its powers, but this was something entirely new. The wolf was not just defending Elias anymore. It was saving the lives of hundreds, coordinating movements and anticipating the attackers every step. The creatures could not understand or predict their actions, and soon they began to retreat, confused and frightened. After the last of the creatures had fled, Elias and the wolf stood in the center of the town. The streets were damaged, some homes destroyed, but the people were alive. Tears, relief, and gratitude filled the air. Children ran to hug Elias and the wolf, sensing the safety that only they could provide. Even the town elders, who had once doubted Elias, bowed in respect. Elias knew this was only the beginning. The attack had not been random. Someone or something had sent these creatures. His mind raced as he considered the possibilities. Could it be another human seeking revenge? Or were there forces in the forest he had yet to understand? The wolf sniffed the air, growling softly, as if agreeing that more challenges were coming. That night, Elias and the wolf returned to their forest home. The stars above were bright, and the forest was quiet again, but neither Elias nor the wolf felt calm. They had faced danger before, yes, but this new threat felt different, intelligent, organized, and deliberate. It was a test, a challenge that would push both of them to their limits. Over the next few days, Elias began investigating the source of the attack. He tracked footprints, unusual marks in the trees, and traces of strange substances that he could not identify. The wolf accompanied him every step of the way, its senses far superior to any human's. Together, they discovered signs that the creatures had a leader, a creature larger, smarter, and more dangerous than the others. Elias knew that confronting it directly would be risky, but the safety of the townspeople depended on him. Meanwhile, the legend of Elias and the wolf grew even further. Word spread to distant towns and cities that a man and a wolf were defending the forests and villages from unknown threats. Some came to offer help, while others came out of fear, wanting to see the creatures for themselves. Elias welcomed none. He knew that outsiders could complicate matters, and the bond between him and the wolf required focus and trust, not distractions. One evening, as Elias and the wolf rested near a river, they sensed the leader approaching. It moved silently, yet its presence was unmistakable. Elias could feel its power, a cold intelligence that matched the wolf's own strength. The wolf growled, low and threatening, its fur bristling, yet it did not attack. It waited, assessing, strategizing, communicating silently with Elias. When the leader finally revealed itself, Elias was stunned. It was larger than any wolf he had ever seen, with strange markings along its fur and eyes that glowed like fire. It did not speak, but its intelligence was clear. It had studied Elias and his wolf, learned their movements, and prepared for confrontation. Elias knew that force alone would not be enough. The wolf nodded, understanding without words. Together they approached cautiously, not with hostility but with confidence. The leader circled them, testing, waiting for a mistake. For hours the standoff continued, neither side daring to strike first. The tension was electric, the air thick with anticipation. Finally, Elias acted. He spoke softly, his voice calm and steady. "We do not want to fight," he said, "but we will protect those who cannot protect themselves. Leave now and no harm will come to you." The leader growled, then moved closer, sniffing the air, its intelligence clear in its gaze. The wolf stepped forward, glowing faintly, and the leader hesitated. It seemed to sense the bond, the unity, and the strength between man and wolf. Slowly, it backed away, disappearing into the shadows of the forest. Elias exhaled, relief washing over him. The wolf nudged him gently, as if to remind him that this victory was shared, that their bond had again saved lives. But Elias knew this was not the end. Other challenges would come. Other threats would rise, and each time he and his wolf would face them together. The town of Ravensfield celebrated their heroes, but Elias returned quietly to the forest, never seeking praise. The wolf remained ever vigilant, glowing softly in the moonlight, a silent guardian and friend. Together they continued their work, protecting, guiding, and teaching the world about the strength of loyalty, trust, and courage. And as the forest grew quiet once more, Elias looked at the wolf and smiled. "We will face whatever comes next," he said. The wolf's eyes glowed in agreement. The bond between them, tested by fire, danger, and fear, had become stronger than ever. It was a bond that could withstand anything, and it was only just beginning.